Joy News Prime.
This is Joy News Prime here on Joy News on Multi TV. My name is Israel Lai, and this bulletin is seen right around the world on the internet at myjoyonline.com, but also across Europe on ABN television. In this edition, public sector doctors hold off plan to resign en masse after tomorrow over a delay in the formulation of their conditions of service. Traders and commercial transport operators reluctantly back down on their refusal to relocate from the KJTR lorry terminal to enable its redevelopment. Meanwhile, here in Accra, scores of residents of the old Fadama slum still left without shelter more than a week after their structures were demolished by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Basic education certificates examinations receipt begins for candidates around the country after cancellation of selected papers last 2 weeks. And if there's been an improvement in the electricity supply situation in your area in the last few weeks, we could explain to you why. We have more business, sports and international news all coming up in the next 60 minutes. Do stay tuned. In our very first story, doctors in the public sector will no longer abandon posts en masse at the end of June this year as they have threatened. The doctors were planning to quit after tomorrow over delays in firming up the conditions of service. They have agreed at the Ghana Medical Association extraordinary emergency meeting held in Accra today that they will give government 30 days more to negotiate and fully implement their conditions of service.
Close to about 1,000 doctors from the 10 regions made it to the extraordinary emergency meeting to deliberate on the way forward. The Ghana Medical Association had earlier threatened to declare its members out of job over government's delay in finishing them with their conditions of service by June 30. The General Assembly, however, decided to extend the deadline to give government more time to address their concerns.
What really binds us is the negotiated and signed conditions of service that is peculiar to the Medical Association and its members. As far as I'm concerned, the ground rules for the negotiations have stated clearly that maximum 1 month, this should be off the table. The General Assembly has also spoken. Beyond that period, we are not going to call any General Assembly meeting again. Deputy General Secretary of the GMA, Dr. Justice Yankson, says the General Assembly also agreed on the next line of action should government fail to meet their demands by July 31. Every little bit that has been decided here by way of the implementation processes will be triggered if the employer has not signed that document with us. If by that period the employer has not completed negotiations plus the signing of the document with us, what is going to happen is that the first 1 week there's going to be withdrawal of OPD service. The second week we'll have withdrawal of OPD and emergency services. The third week we'll have a total withdrawal, and that will culminate in the final bits of the decision making, that is the resignation en bloc. So now what the General Assembly has done is that they spelled out the processes. Some doctors have also expressed confidence in the negotiation process, which they say will greatly boost their morale.
I think that the morale among doctors over the years has been very low. Imagine I collapse whilst operating on a patient, and the hospital will need to call my wife, who is outside this country, to come and buy me medications before I survive. These are the conditions under which many of us work every day, that we have to foot our own hospital bills, even when we get injured at the very hospitals in which we work. That the way to boost the morale of workers is to give them a better conditions of service, which we don't have.
I hope and believe that by the end of this 30 days period, it will come into force. And indeed, the rules of engagement states that it's not just about signing a piece of document, but then it's coming into force with the signatures that will go along with the document.
Matilda Pumaga for Joy News, Accra.
Now, more than a week after a demolition exercise at the old Fadama slum here in Accra, several residents of the settlement are still without a roof over their heads. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has justified the removal of the structures that have sprung up in the Odo River, it says, are partly responsible for the floods that claimed scores of lives on June 3. Though some of the victims of the demolition have returned to the home regions, Kwacha Frenioma reports that as of Monday morning, there were some still without shelter.
Days after the massive demolition exercise here at Old Fadama that saw thousands of structures destroyed, many residents displaced as well, city authorities say they have put in place arrangements in terms of transportation to take these residents back to the northern part of the country. But many of them who've been speaking to Joy News say they've been waiting here since dawn, but the buses are not ready.
Since the morning time, lorry is not yet ready for us to go home, but we don't know whether the lorry will still come or not. I saw 3 cars move to Bimbala station, but we don't know whether here too there will be some or not. Actually, those who are going to north, the Tamale like this, located as Tamale, we are many, more than Bimbala people, but they have to take them before us. We don't know whether our car will come or not.
It's very difficult that some of us has come as well as this in the early dawn, but unfortunately they did not get this in the first car. Even though the way they talk, they say that everybody should park his things to listen to the Gomba station. So as far as they talk that, you see that our things is there many. How can we park them? So we are deciding to park them to the place where they dismount. After that, we will then what? Tomorrow we will then come and see whether they will pick us or not.
A team from the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, has also been on the ground registering displaced residents of Old Fadama since Thursday. Joseph Otu is the NADMO Metro Coordinator.
At the moment, we are registering those that have been affected by the demolition exercise and those who are eager to leave to their various destinations, like those who want to go to Tamale, Bimbila. Since yesterday, about 22 of these Metro buses have left.
Of course, we've been speaking to some of these displaced residents of Old Fadama who say over there, they are stranded. They've been waiting since morning. The buses are not in.
If they are ready to leave, they say, oh, I have to go and bring my items and so on, and this is delaying the whole thing. But not the buses. The buses, you see, they line up. They line up, and the people are there also to enter. But when you call them, oh, I'll not go today, I'll go tomorrow, I'll not go today, I'll go tomorrow. This is a problem.
Many of them there are ready. Scores of them.
Yes, I agree with you. But what I'm saying is that the buses are there. The leadership has to be part of the arrangement. NADMO cannot go and start calling them. But I want the leadership to be involved. They know them, and they know those who are willing to go.
Distribution of the money promised these residents by the AMA has, however, commenced. Kwacha Frenioma for Joy News.
Now, the demolition at Old Fadama has not only affected the adults but the children as well. They say the demolition has not only rendered them homeless but also affected their education. Joy News' Anil Sabute visited the community and interacted with some of them.
I'm still holed up here in the community that's Old Fadama, popularly called Sodom and Gomorrah. It's been in the news following the decision by the city authorities to get into this particular community with bulldozers and tore down their homes, mostly wooden structures. And I'm speaking to the kids because most of the times they are affected.
Yes, some of my father's homes are broken.
Some of your parents' homes are broken?
Yes.
And how did you get the news? Were you at home when they were coming? Were you somewhere? Were you in school?
Yeah, the time I'm in school.
So when you came, their homes have been broken?
Yes.
You saw your parents. Were they scared? Were they crying?
My parents are crying. And me too, the time that I saw it, me too, I started to cry.
Why did you cry?
Because we don't have some place to sleep. So that evening, I went to my friends. So I went and told them they should find some place for us to sleep. So them too, they do it.
We were at home when the team came. I saw them pull down some structures in the area. I was very frightened because we may be affected. I want to return to my hometown. Life will be better there.
As it stands now, most of them are uncertain as to when their homes will be touched. There are lots of cases here. For them, most of them are oblivious of essentially what is going on. But you talk to the adults, they go to bed, they tell you that they cannot sleep because they don't even know when the bulldozer will run through their homes and rip everything apart. My name is Daniel Sabute.
Now, the need to dredge the Odo River has been one of the lessons learned after the June 3 flood. But how far has the Assembly gone in clearing silt from Accra's biggest drain? Barima Osei Asare has more.
The Accra Metropolitan Assembly has begun dredging of the Odo River at the Old Fadama site. This exercise, which started last Saturday, is expected to allow free flow of water into the Korle Lagoon from the Odo River during this rainy season. The dredging is ongoing now, and we are yet to know how long it is going to take the AMA to actually get the Odo River actually fully dredged. We're going to get some residents to talk to and find out if they're happy about this exercise and what the anticipation is really like. Are you happy about this exercise?
Yeah, I know it very well. Yeah, Konkoma, the time we start Konkoma for you, so 1982, 83, the gutter is not like that, but now they take fridge and then TV, luggages and things, lock the Korle Lagoon, so we want to express ourselves to do everything so that government want to do. We know what is going on now. Sesiano, obia on children say into ya project no ya my sesia ball and ebi negu ano. So I say fine. Sesia ball and ebi negu ano. Sesia ball and ebi negu ano. So I say adenti na obi odija or market. Who ya baller, who makaya ball on fa ball and fanko. And now the ball and babegu ano musi. And you're fine, I was city. So what I say, until I say, no, me the pass at Munye, me can't show Munye, and you're fine, no beyond tonu. At the same time, mosquito, no dosu, malaria, typhoid fever, then things. You see? So we like it. I love.
But one thing which causes the problem of us here, majority comes from AMA. They allow us to stay and they allow how can somebody build without permit. And now problem come on us now. And they, the same people are in the forward now that we should move. Madam, is it fine?
So, but basically, are you happy about the exercise?
100%. I'm happy about it. Because this will prevent us from so many problems which we are facing. And they are the cause of all these problems. AMA is the cause of all these problems. See how cars lay for the roadside like this, all from AMA. So I'm very happy about what the government is doing.
No, I don't like. Why? See my picking. I get small child. I get 3 pickings. Don't get room. Now I'm manage small. So to sleep somewhere.
You're not happy that they are dredging the gutter to make way for water to go so that those places get flooded?
I want it like that, but the other side is too much.
Also, traders and drivers at KJT and Kumasi are scrambling for space at a temporary yard given them by city authorities following plans by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly to construct new stalls at the old market. Joy News' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin reports that traders had earlier refused to relocate to the current site for fear of losing out on the new market. Public Relations Officer of the KMA, Godwin Kuma, however, says the reconstruction of the KJT market will provide a conducive business environment for both the traders and the drivers.
A combined team of military and police were dispatched to the KJT bus terminal to close the area off to the traders and transport operators. The move was to enable them complete relocation of the transport operators to the Abinji and Racecourse areas in Kumasi to pave way for the Central Market or KJT redevelopment project. Traders were not happy with the exercise, which seemed to have taken them by surprise.
We couldn't see that. They told us we have to go on the race course. You see a whole lot of bush over there. Today you see Amaran, definitely Amaran. We see the soldiers, how they captured thieves. It's very bad. It's very bad. People are so scared about it. He's the military man. Today I want to cry because I want to cry because how people want to see the soldiers. They couldn't really want to enter. Because the time that I was trying to get, I see military men around in the military zone. We're not in the military zone, but
we've not seen any development here. We came here to look for a place to work. The authorities say they will only give us a place to work after giving the drivers a place to operate from.
But the transport unions and traders eventually obliged. While transport unions reached out to passengers with the help of an information van, the traders were also busily working on the available space to erect their shops. Public Relations Officer of the KMA, Godwin Kuma, believes the move by the Assembly will inure to the benefit of the traders and drivers.
But the important thing is that we have a space for the hawkers. We have been there, you've seen the place that we have for them. We have done the marking. Now that the hawkers have, voluntarily moved to the race course, what is going to happen? That we're going to make sure that we allocate the places, or we give them the places that have been reserved for them, because that place is.
Saying Kumasi former Mayor Maxwell Kuvijuma has petitioned the Attorney General over the case in which he has been accused of destroying election material and putting up offensive conduct, obstructing the conduct of a peaceful election. Mr. Juma, who contested and lost the New Patriotic Party's parliamentary primaries at the Asukwa constituency in Kumasi on June 13, was arrested by the police for destroying election materials. He was put in police custody and released the next day. He has been charged together with his campaign manager, Riches Oscar, and the case was to be heard today, Monday, June 29, at the Kumasi Circuit Court. However, because of his petition, the docket has been forwarded to the Office of the Attorney General, and therefore the adjournment to July 6, 2015. Now, the principal state attorney in charge of the case has been speaking to Joy News.
We have indicated our intention to start the case. We brought all our witnesses. But before we could start, I received a letter from the Attorney General saying that the accused persons have petitioned him and that he should call for the docket. So the letter is stating that I should bring the docket to him for his study and advice. And based on that, that is why the court adjourned the case to on the 6th of July 2015. He's going to study the docket and advise whether there is sufficient evidence to prosecute the case or not. So this is what he's going to do.
But personally, do you think there is evidence?
There is strong evidence in the case. We have a case and very strong evidence to support whatever we are going to do at the court.
Mr. Juma, a former Deputy Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, who also served as a Kumasi mayor, is currently on a 10,000 Ghana cedi bill together with his campaign manager, Oscar Riches. We're taking a break now, but we have more stories coming up thereafter, including the improvement in the power situation. Do stay tuned. Some 438,000 candidates around the country today took part in the first set of the re-administered basic education certificate examinations after some of the papers were cancelled following a mass leakage last 2 weeks. The candidates wrote 3 of the 6 outstanding papers, except this time was administered under the scrutiny of officers of the Bureau of National Investigations. Latif Idris Sava reports a security presence was not so obvious at the various centers.
These candidates ordinarily will be at home cooling off after the exacting examinations, but as fate will have it, they have had to do further studying to rewrite 3 of the papers and 2 others that were rescheduled as a result of the mass leakage. The 3 rewritten today were the paper 2 of the English, Integrated Science and Religious and Moral Education subject, with the maths paper 2 scheduled for tomorrow, along with the Social Studies paper 1 and 2 which were postponed. Most of the candidates, after writing the first paper, appeared confident they had prepared well enough.
The essay, the comprehension, some of the words, anxiously deceptive, but we did what we know.
And what are expectations going into the second paper?
I will go and write it with Vim.
Yeah, I learned because I learned. Yeah, because they said they cancelled the other one. I wasn't dependent on, I'm not depending on Apo again, so I'm learning on my own. So I learned well. That's why I was able to do it.
Though the security officers supervising the conduct of the paper this time round were not so conspicuous, one of the invigilators confirmed they were present. Just like the supervisor at the Kanda Cluster of Schools Center, the candidates were oblivious of the presence of the national security operatives. Though there have been complaints about the time available to write the outstanding papers, officials have explained that it is not as bad as it has been suggested, and that the candidates would normally have written 4 papers on 2 subjects in a day.
President John Mahama has asked judges of the Supreme Court to come out with fair rulings that will promote confidence in all parties. Speaking at the swearing-in of 2 Supreme Court judges at the presidency today, the president said judgments from Ghana's courts must also be able to stand the test of time.
President John Mahama appointed Justice Yao Appel and Justice Gabriel Pwamang to the Supreme Court 2 weeks ago. They were vetted by Parliament's Appointment Committee and approved by Parliament last week. Prior to their appointment, Justice Yao Appel was the sole commissioner of the Judgment Desk Commission, whilst Gabriel Pwamang was a lawyer and managing partner at Pwamang and Associates and the Centre of Public Interest Law. He urged them to give fair judgment to benefit all.
The strength of our democracy and the rule of law have been tested on numerous occasions by both citizens and non-citizens. The citizens of Ghana, the government of Ghana, the business community, and many others have very high expectations that the judgments of our highest court must instill confidence in litigants so that all parties to a case will be assured of a fair day in court. This can genuinely be guaranteed if we have unbiased judges who will determine cases without fear or favor.
President Mahama also urged them to give rulings which can stand the test of time and could also serve as point of reference by lower courts and help fight corruption.
A question we must always ask is whether our decisions will stand the test of history. Will the decisions of our Supreme Court of Ghana be followed by other common law jurisdictions or by international tribunals? These are important questions to ask. This can be achieved if our decisions are sound and have sufficient significance to influence decisions in other jurisdictions. This is a very important matter to which we must focus attention, because there have been landmark cases given in our courts that have been held to be contrary to international law. In other cases, international tribunals have refused to follow the decisions of our courts. This must engage the attention of legal researchers. The judiciary must be a committed partner in the fight against corruption.
On behalf of his colleague, Justice Yao Appel promised the president they will not disappoint him.
I wish to humbly state with all sincerity, Your Excellency, that we shall never disappoint you on the choice you made in settling on us when the need arose for you to fill the gap created upon the retirement of 2 distinguished members of the court. Rather, I wish to assure you, Your Excellency, that we shall discharge our duties with dedication, honesty, integrity, excellence, and zeal as required of us as justices of the highest court of the land, to make Your Excellency and the good people of Ghana proud.
Chief Justice Georgina Theodora Wood, Attorney General, and other members of the bench were at the ceremony.
The water in the Akosombo Dam, which provides about half of Ghana's energy needs, continues to dip well below its minimum operating level, with serious implications for the country. The level, as posted on the website of the Volta River Authority today, is 238.45 feet, more than a foot below the ideal operating level of 240 feet. Officials of the authority are, however, not shutting down the dam yet, explaining that though the minimum operating level is 240 feet, the dam can technically go below that level, and actually cite an instance in 1984 when the level went as low as 235.76 feet. In the worst case scenario, officials say they can operate only 2 turbines. Only 4 of the 6 turbines are generating power at the moment as a result of the low level of water. At its optimum operating level, the dam generates 1,080 megawatts, about half the country's electricity needs. Meanwhile, checks at the Ghana Grid Company indicates there's been some improvement in the electricity supply situation, though they are unwilling to publicly acknowledge that. They explain that this is as a result of the coming on stream of the Tico plant at Abuate, which generates about 300 megawatts, after being down for some months to allow for the addition of another component. Officials, however, add that the plant is still being commissioned, and as such, the supply has not been very consistent. Some consumers Joy News has been speaking to have confirmed the energy crisis and attendant load shedding has not been as bad as at the peak of the crisis.
Has it improved? Has it normalized? Or has it worsened? I am talking about the power situation. We are on the streets of Accra to find out how it is in various homes. I have with me Kumasi. Kumasi, where do you stay?
Actually, I'm staying at La Paz.
La Paz. How is the power situation there?
Some are better, but sometimes you also do find that with unexpected, then you say they will give you the light off. You sometimes have the 24 hours, then sometimes 12 hours. I mean, it's inconsistent.
So I live in Kokomi vicinity. It's as bad as it has been since, and I think it's even getting worse in the sense that these days you can't even buy to stock in the fridge. You have to buy in bits, and that's more expensive. That's how bad it is. And for those of us who are working mothers too, it has a toll on our productivity in that you have to prepare fresh meals every day. You'd have to get to work on time and all that. So the power outage is really not just affecting businesses, but it's affecting lives and our productivity as a whole.
So how long does the power go off in your home?
Okay, the power stays on for 12 hours. It goes off for 24, sometimes 36 hours.
I live in Teshi, Camp 2. We haven't had power for some time now.
When you say some time now, exactly how many days?
For about 4 days.
Continuous?
Yes, continuous. And even when it comes, it's very erratic. It comes in the morning, maybe 9 o'clock. By 12 midday, it will be off. And it will be off for a couple of days. It's terrible.
Have you found out if it's a fault in your area or it's the continuation of the power management?
Well, I have not really bothered myself to find out. It's been the same for a very long time, so I don't bother about it anymore.
I live in Kumasi. Yeah, the power situation hasn't improved that much, and the most painful aspect of it is that it's very erratic. It doesn't follow any routine.
And have you found out if it has changed in any way?
No, when I called my brothers, they said nothing has changed.
All right, so while some say it has improved, others say it hasn't improved. Well, in my area, I'm not telling you which area it is, though, there's been some improvements. And what I also found out from my checks with the electricity company, it turns out that if your area is actually experiencing a power outage for that long, 4 days, as we heard one guy say, there may probably be a major fault in your area, so you should report it. We're taking a break now. We'll bring you business when we come back.
Hello there, time now to get you updated in business. My name is Abigail Adomakoinchi. Now, the special task force charged to conduct feasibility studies into the establishment of the Ghana Export-Import Exim Bank is hopeful its recommendations should ultimately bridge the gap between the country's level of imports and exports. According to the chairman of the task force, Steve Williams, the team has done extensive work across various economies to halt a trade imbalance, which is largely blamed for the perennial depreciation of the cedi, among other economic challenges. Chairman Steve Williams said this when the task force presented its report to President Mahama after 3 months of work.
We have deliberated extensively, looked at Exims in both emerging and the OECD economies, and we have come up with a paper that we believe should stand the test of time in this country. We believe that the recommendations of the committee, when implemented, will go a long way to solving some of the structural issues that we face.
The Exim Bank would be the principal financing institution for mainly exports, but also supports the importation of capital goods such as raw agricultural produce and timber that can be used to manufacture other goods. President Mahama, who commissioned the task force in February, said the Exim Bank would be critical in the agenda to transform the economy into an export-led one.
We're currently undergoing a first review of our IMF program, and trade imbalance has been flagged once again as one of the major flaws in Ghana's economic progress. The recent commodity price volatility has shown that the nation does not yet have enough buffers, despite additional forex revenues from crude oil. The Ghana Exim Bank will be an independent institution capable of accessing funds within and outside Ghana, using the strength of its balance sheet.
The former deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, Van Ledo, chaired the task force, which was to, among other goals, identify practices of similar banks in other countries and seek potential sources of funding for it. He, however, passed on just a month into the activities. A minute silence was therefore observed in his memory. Ghana is set to receive the first disbursement of funds for Compact 2 of the Millennium Challenge account from the U.S. government by December this year. The initiative aims at overhauling the electricity distribution network to make it more efficient. Chief Executive of the Millennium Development Authority, Mida, announced this at the launch of preparations for the Compact. The $498.2 million Compact 2 is said to be the largest U.S. government transaction under Power Africa to date. Ultimately, Compact 2 will look at solving the country's energy crisis. There are 8 projects that will form the basis for Compact 2. ECG and NEDCO financial and operational turnaround projects, power generation sector improvement projects, among 4 others. Chief Executive Officer of MIDA, Engineer Urasafwe, intimates all is set for Compact 2.
One of the critical conditions precedent is that we publish an international tender for private sector participation in ECG. And therefore, we have started the process. We have started the process by contracting a transaction advisor who will start the process of advising government and producing that tender document. And so as we look ahead to facilitate the work of IFC so that they can complete this tender.
Former President John Ejekum Kufuor, who was also at the launch, charges managers of Compact 2 not to relent on their promise to end the power crisis.
My expectation is that the management would be allowed to do its work, as I said, very technically and efficiently. So at the end of the day, our society is saved from the debilitation of doomsaw and so on, which is destroying the economy.
Former finance minister and leader of the IMF negotiating team, Dr. Kwesi Botwe, is optimistic Compact 2 will be a huge success.
I'm confident that Compact 2 will be successful. It is focused on the power sector, which I think everybody would agree is the severest constraint on the economy and on growth. I'm encouraged that steps have been taken already to signal the preparations for Compact 2. As the chairman of the MIDA rightly pointed out, a chairman is in place, a new CEO has been appointed, the key staff are in place. I'm particularly heartened that a new CEO in place who appears to be up to the job.
The 5-year Millennium Challenge Compact for Millennium Challenge Account Assistance was signed between the United States of America, acting through the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and the government of Ghana. In other news, vehicle owners and commercial drivers would now be paying half the initial increase in their third-party motor insurance premium over the next 2 years. That's 150% from January next year and same from January 2017. For now, policyholders would be paying 3 times more and not 6 times when the premium increase takes effect from Wednesday, July 1. The reduction in the increase by half was the ultimate decision of the stakeholder consultations last Friday, exclusively available to Joy Business. Stakeholders, including the Insurers Association, have declined comment for now, but earlier, a member of the insurers team negotiating with government Kobina Addison spoke to Joy Business on the rationale behind the consultations.
It's important to note that the powers that be spoke to the regulator, and the regulator, doing what is most prudent, asked us to suspend it. I think we should be mindful of the fact that we are in a political economy and we cannot do things in isolation. And that's what we appreciate, and that's why we are here. It's important to note, like I've been telling everyone, that insurance is a science, and we need to gather data over a period of time to come up with a rate. So this whole issue being thrown around that every year we should increase it, every year we should increase it, will be unfair on you, because there may be years that the risk profiles would have improved, yet we'll be increasing it. And
that'll be all for business. My name is Abigail Adumakwenchi. Stay on for more news as Israel comes back.
Chief of the political section of the U.S. Embassy here in Accra, Robert Carlson, says that ruling in America legalizing gay marriages in all states will not affect Ghana-U.S. relations in any way. Speaking on the polls, Robert Carlson emphasized the ruling is for Americans and that the country is only against all forms of discrimination.
This Supreme Court ruling is only about Americans. It's only about people living in the United States. So far, as we don't have any indication that this is going to change our foreign relations. I think we will continue to have a very strong relationship with Ghana. Our Secretary of State did say that the court's decision really does send a message around the world that no law that rests on a foundation of discrimination can withstand the tide of justice. So
Could you break that down to us?
I think what this means is that for Ghanaians, you've got to debate this issue among yourselves. What we're talking about is fundamental human rights. Contrary to what some people believe, the United States is not trying to export a lifestyle into Ghana or into Africa. The only thing that we are suggesting to the rest of the world is that no one should be discriminated against.
Now, the president of GALCA has outlined plans for this year's President's Cup between Accra Folk and Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
With all happiness, I declare that the 1st July 2015 President Cup will surely take place or come off at Accra Sports Stadium on the 1st of July 2015. The two clubs that will be engaged in this titanic match will be the Accra House of Folk and Kumasi Asate Kotoko. I would like at this juncture to thank the Ministry of Youth and Sports very well for virtually sponsoring this 2015 President Cup. I will take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Minister who has worked very, very well, very, very hard, including his Chief Director, to make sure that this event come on.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Sports Minister Vincent Topong Asamoah says he has high expectations of this year's President's Cup slated for July 1, Republic Day.
We are expecting a high turnout. Kotoko and House of Folk are playing, even though you know their placement on the league table is not anything to be proud of. But already there's something at stake, because we are still counting how many times have they played, how many times have this team won over the other. So there's something at stake. So we are sure that a lot of people will turn up come 1st July. It may not be as big as what we witnessed on Saturday, but we know that when it comes to House of Folk and Asante Kotoko, there's usually something at stake, and I know a lot of people will turn up. I will not be disappointed if we are not able to make that numbers, because that was a historic event.
Well, as you may probably be aware, former Black Stars captain Stephen Appiah, he had a wonderful send-off with a memorial match over the weekend, in fact on Sunday, and he has been advising former other Black Stars players on how they should use their money now that they are in their prime of their youth.
What I want to tell them is they shouldn't rush in life. They should let the passion come before thinking about money. They should love what they're doing. They should respect their others. They should respect their coaches. They should follow their instructions. The sky will be their limit.
Indeed, it was an impressive turnout at the Accra Sports Stadium. I mean, we had two former presidents as well as a sitting president in the stands watching the events. That's it. Up next, we bring you the weather report. And some news before we go. Black Stars captain Asamoah has named his new $3 million residential facility La Basilica de Baby Jet. The head player of official Ghana football is said to have acquired the luxurious house overlooking the Wager Dam at a whopping $3 million. Let's find out just how luxurious this mansion is.
We are currently inside the $3 million house owned by Captain Asamoah, aka Baby Jet. Join me and the rest take a tour of the house.
Chinua. International Fishama. Capasta, Wallace. TB Amanawa. I didn't wash a bunso. When I wash a bunso. Oh, you got Kalayo. I follow the bottom of shit on low. I for she cut the ammo. I can not about my
What do you make of the house?
Beautiful. It was a virgin place, but I knew that it has a future. And therefore, his coming here has really fulfilled what I really thought of for this place.
I would like to say that we are pleased to have Asamoah as a neighbor. This is the most beautiful place in Ghana. There's no place in Ghana that you can have a lake, you can have a hill, and be able to have rolling hills and a city view.
The guy who put up the building is called Michael Peterson, right? He was a friend when he was putting up the building. But later on, he told us that somebody has bought it. I think he put it up for sale for about $3 million. But so surprisingly, it's nobody other than Asamoah who was able to buy it up.
I follow the bottom of shit on low. I for she cut the ammo. I can not about my hand and go. Oh, yeah, Buloma. Oh, Fuji, oh, yeah, Goma. Oh, the movie, Vigola. Oh, yeah, Bukakalayo. I follow the bottom of shit on low. I for she cut the ammo. I can not about my hand and go. Oh, yeah, Buloma. Oh, Fuji, oh, yeah, Goma. Oh, the movie, I for she cut the ammo. I can not about my hand and go. Oh, yeah, Buloma. Oh, Fuji, oh, yeah, Goma. Oh, the movie, Vigola.
When I grow up, I'll buy one. That'll be all for the bulletin. Before we go a quick round through our top stories. The public sector doctors have called off a plan to resign en masse after tomorrow over a delay in the formulation of their conditions of service. Traders and commercial transport operators have reluctantly backed down on their refusal to relocate from the KJT Lorry Terminal to enable its redevelopment. While here in Accra, scores of residents of the old Fadama slum are still left without shelter more than a week after their structures were demolished by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Basic education certificate exams resits began today for candidates around the country after the cancellation of the selected papers last 2 weeks. And if there's been an improvement in electricity supply situation in your area in the last few weeks, well, it is true. There's been some improvement in the generation situation. That's it for the bulletin. My name is Israel. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening.